Yeah. So the other day, I saw a report coming out of Jamaica where the PSOJ, Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, back in my youth days, we used to refer to them as the privileged sons of Jamaica, where they were calling for some what they refer to as constructive stakeholder engagement as they lobbied for the merging of both Emancipation Day and Independence Day as public holidays in Jamaica. And the argument being um, presented is that essentially what I say, in my opinion, is that we have too much holiday, and that the holiday, especially these two holidays, as they are them spread out, the Emancipation Day being the 1st of August and Independence Day the 6th of August. And so their proposal is to merge them over a weekend. Now, listen, we Jamaica is a democratic country, yes, and the views of all persons, as them say, all views are allowed to contend. But when you take a position on something that is as significant as these, now these are two of the most important days, in my opinion, in the existence of all of us as Jamaicans. It goes to the core, the heart of who we are, right? Independence Day, the 6th of August, and Emancipation Day, the 1st of August. Now, from a historical standpoint, the business of emancipation we saw in 1834, where following the abolition of the slave trade, the whole business of slavery was officially abolished on that day, the 1st of August of 1834. It would take us 4 more years after, the white people empty for 4 more years to establish full freedom for all black people, people of color, specifically black people in the British West Indies. It's important too that we recognize that we enjoyed independence, or emancipation rather, some 31 years before the same emancipation was granted to black people in the United States of America. But importantly enough, the significance of emancipation is that it basically began the process by which Jamaicans would essentially, to use the great Professor Rex Nettleford's terms when he spoke to the smaditization of Jamaica. But essentially, what we had is that during the transition period from slavery to freedom, without the Emancipation Proclamation, without emancipation being granted, none of what we have accomplished as a people up to today would have been possible, right? In other words, in order for you to be able to find a space in Jamaica or anywhere in the world you are as a Jamaican who have now migrated elsewhere, without that freedom, where we are would never have been possible. And so the significance of emancipation is that it brought about what I want to call the smaditization of the Jamaican population. It basically opened the door for all of us to become somebody, right? And I want to big up the late Professor Rex Nettleford, as he, because I came to terms with that, the word, the significance of this whole concept of smaditization, right? Through the utterings of Professor Nettleford in his time. And when he spoke about us becoming somebody by virtue of your ability to own property. Because if you were a slave, you can't own shit, right? You can't own nothing. And so to own property, then we move to a point where you, in order to be able to vote, to get political representation, you also had to be a property owner. So that also helped to define you, right? And so as a people, we are, as Jamaicans, as Black Jamaicans, coming out of this period where it is so important in terms of us being able to define ourselves, because it is out of that freedom that ultimately the process of pushing back against the colonials, right? The continued revolts, demonstrations, public display of disgust with the state of affairs that operated in Jamaica. And while this movement grew throughout the British or the Anglophile Caribbean, I'm speaking specifically of Jamaica. And so the continued pushback against colonialism ended up with the granting of independence. And that's a whole story by itself. But without emancipation, which essentially is foundering the spirit of Jamaica and the spirit of Jamaicans, independence would have been meaningless. And so, considering that the whole business of emancipation is speaking to the 90 odd percent, 92% of the people of Jamaica who look like me, right? Let me show myself. Who look like myself and the great Professor Rex Nettleford, who came to the Caribbean in shackles and chains at gunpoint, not with any passport and visa, right? We managed by virtue of struggle to free ourselves. And so when I hear the president of the PSOJ, Metri Siaga, a Jamaica white man, right, who is advocating from a money standpoint that, boy, we have too much, because essentially that's what I'm saying. We have too much holiday, and there is a loss of productivity in the country by having these holidays string out one back of one another, and the days and the days between Emancipation Day and in independence, the productivity of the country not going away. The fact is that Jamaica's productivity has never gone anywhere since the end of slavery, right? We average somewhere around 1.25% growth in GDP on an annual basis, and this is long before we had Emancipation Day. And so here is a man who is, because of his own, in my opinion, his own cultural upbringing. Because if you're not a black man in a space like Jamaica, to understand how the people like Mr. Siaga himself oppresses the spirit of our blackness. And this kind of idea, right, is, in my opinion, oppressive, because it seeks to take us back to a position where we want to, roll down the value of our freedom, the value that our forebears, people who came, right, and tilled the land so that people like him and his ilk are, control more than 80% the output of the country, the wealth of the country. And so you want to push us back into a position where we are, our history is now being watered on. I've heard this term being bandied about emancipendence. And so clearly this was the ruse. It was a quiet approach to come to this point. In 1998, PJ Patterson, the PJ Patterson administration, declared Emancipation Day as a national holiday. In my opinion, it was an important move because it served to recognize who we are. In the course of that, the government of the country established the Emancipation Park, which is right across the street from the Pegasus Hotel, and right in that circle there in New Kingston. And the monuments, the park itself was a monument to the realization of the freedom that has come to people of color. It is significant that the two figures in the monument are reflective of the color composition of the majority of Jamaicans. And so Jamaica people must not allow these people to try to turn the clock back. We have come a long way, but we're not too far away for these people, in the interest of their ability to enhance their ability to make an extra dollar. We are going to erase a significant swath of the history of our people. You know, may I have to big up the Chief Justice, Brian Sykes. Last weekend, he was at a service in Trelawney where he himself addressed this particular issue, right? And he spoke at length. As he said, there is no price tag on the celebration of freedom, right? And again, he was, speaking at a service to mark the opening session of the Michaelmas term, Christmas term of the Home Circuit Court in the parish. Now, as Brian Sykes said, this was his personal view in respect of the debate on a single extended weekend for independence and emancipation, emancipendence celebration. And he made the point that the celebration of freedom for the people of Jamaica should not come with a price tag, right? Emancipendence, as they are putting it, is the combining of the celebration of Independence Day, which and Emancipation Day. But it is important that we understand that the journey to emancipation and the journey to independence were separate journeys, and they were all significant enough that they ought to be recognized individually. One of the problems that we have as a country is that we don't pay sufficient attention to educating our population. Mr. Siaga's talk about surveying the membership of the private sector organization. The private sector organization of Jamaica and its membership don't speak for the majority of Jamaicans. It is a old boys club of people who have money in Jamaica who don't really care about the interest of the average Jamaican. They want an opportunity where their productivity is not interrupted, right? You can't tell me about your survey a handful of companies when say whoever the membership of the PSOJ is, because then those speak for all Jamaicans. And then you can't ask the average Jamaican in a survey about this thing either, because as a country, we have not invested in the education of Jamaicans to the degree that the average Jamaican really understands the value of emancipation in the first instance, and then the value of independence, right? And so, what we have is the tail a wag the dog, right? It can be only about money. And me have to big up Brian Sykes, right? I would hope these two jokers, our prime minister and the leader of opposition, understand the significance of this argument, right? According to Siaga, they have submitted their findings to the Minister of Culture. I hope Babsy Green dash back the survey for him and run them out of our office. Because what you are doing, right, is whittling down the value of who we are as a people by taking this kind of position, right? Freedom, the price tag of freedom cannot be demarcated, right? The value of our freedom, we can't put a price on it. And so what we need to do is to educate our population. Let us create curricula within the school system so that we bring back this consciousness among Jamaicans. Because consciousness starts with giving people the tools to process information. And our current education system doesn't really do that, right? Only about 33% of our students at the secondary level matriculate sufficiently that you could say that they are getting it. But what happened to the other 67%? For most of these kids, school is a warehouse where you just hold them until them reach 16, 17, and them go a road, go look at work, right? We have to do better than that. And had we a more intelligent and articulate population, people like Mr. Metri Siaga would never be allowed to get away with this kind of discourse, the promotion of this kind of discourse. Big up, again, the Chief Justice for the stance that he has taken. And I want to big up Professor Rex Nettleford, because the vision that the man they have, we today sit on the shoulders, we stand on the shoulders of people like a Rex Nettleford. Again, remember, without freedom, your ability to own property, right? To utilize the resources that the institution like the Housing Trust has now created, to purchase a piece of property that can provide wealth for Jamaicans that can move from one generation to the next. That would never happen, right? The fact that we have our political representatives look like the majority away would have never happened without emancipation, right? And without emancipation, we would never have independence. And so what we now need to do is to promote independent thinking by promoting a stronger approach to educating our population. Maybe you want to think about what we think, right? Because, as we say, I think sometimes the people have take liberty with the fact that the average Jamaican is a little off the track in terms of what, right? If you like the video, hit the like button. And of course, if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel so that, when we have them kind of burning discussion and opinions, you're going to be the first to hear it. Respect. Let me hear you read your comment in the comment section. And until then, more time. Respect.